everyone, welcome to Backstory Sessions. I'm your host Matt. We hope you enjoy this episode.
Hey everybody, it's Kat, and I want to welcome you to this episode of Backstory Sessions. I'm joined today by my co-host, Matt. Hey, Matt.
Hey, Kat. Hey, everyone. How are you?
Episode 2 of this two-part series on a rock camp.
Yes, episode 2. The first one did pretty well. David was really interesting, and I think this one will be just as.
Well, this one's kind of special because this women's fantasy rock camp is going to be held in Nashville, and that's going to be just next week, right? Like the 19th through 22nd, I think.
That is correct, and it features...
So Wynona,
yep.
who, is a Kentucky native, is going to be headlining this. And then there's your favorite.
Yeah, Lzzy Hale.
Yeah, Halestorm.
Yeah.
And then we have Steve Lawless, who is one of our listeners, I know posted in the group, Vicki Peterson. It's one of his favorites, apparently.
Yeah, she's from the Bangles, I believe.
Yeah, so she's also going to be there, and there's others as well, but,
right.
Those are 3 major ones, and this is the second episode, of a all-female rock camp. So the counselors are all women, and the participants in the band the people that just sign up for it are also, it's all female. Yeah. But men can come to the final performances. That's open, buy a ticket, so anyone can buy a ticket and go to that. So the final performances are not just for women. Right,
and I just wanted to add that our guest today is actually going to be one of the counselors as well.
Oh, yes, she is. And, I think we should talk about her because, one, because she's our guest, but also she, besides being a counselor, she's the one that puts all this together, like all of these musical talents that are going to be counselors. She's the one that does that.
Yeah, she's the musical director, I believe is her title. And
yeah. What a dream job,
Yeah, she's certainly got a lot of contacts. I imagine her Rolodex or whatever it is pretty thick.
Yeah, this really has nothing to do with that, but when you said Rolodex, it was one of the things where they ask kids, like, what are these things?
Yeah.
I saw just yesterday, it was like, supposed to be things about the 90s. And so one of the things they asked the kid was, what was a Rolodex? And he had no idea. So
Not surprising.
Yeah. So if we have any listeners out there that, are not having trouble understanding Matt's vocabulary, well, just wanted to let you know you are not alone.
What I really want to know is, does anybody actually still have a Rolodex?
I think some people do. It's just like not everyone is a fan of technology. So
that's true. But, as podcasters, we have to be, so.
Yes, yeah. So I don't have a Rolodex, and I don't think you do either.
No. I have very few numbers stored in my phone, so.
Well, I have less stored in my brain. Because I used to you used to know everybody's phone number. because you had to dial it.
Right,
Well,
yeah.
now, I just look for your picture and be like, okay. So I was like, I have no idea what the phone number is. I barely know my own. So,
Yeah, I mean, if somebody asked me your phone number, I wouldn't know it.
yeah, I know. I know your area code.
Right, yeah. I'm surprised I even know my own phone number.
Yeah, me too. Well, only because, you switched numbers not too long ago. So, well,
That's
it might
true,
have been a
yeah.
year ago now. I don't know, but
Yeah,
time flies.
indeed it
But
does.
back to our guest. Our guest today is Brit Lightning. And I have to does that song go through your mind when I say Brit Lightning?
What song is that?
Oh,
Apparently it
bro,
doesn't.
no. I mean, as soon as I read that or hear that, Grease Lightning
Oh
goes.
yeah, yeah. You're a big
I just
Grease fan, so
Yes, I am. I mean, I had kids sing that so many times, and now I just I can just see them up there going "Go Brit
right,
Lightning,"
yeah,
doing the dance and everything, and
yeah.
yeah. So I bet she gets that, but I'm gonna ask her. I think because that's the first thing that goes through my mind. But if you had to think of a name for yourself, would Matt Lightning,
No, no. I kind of move a little slow, so you know.
Mad Max, Matt
Maybe
Max.
Matt Shuffler. Certainly not Lightning.
Yeah. What's slower than lightning?
um, yeah. Mud,
Yeah,
like a mudslide or something.
Matt Mudslide. Well, it's Eminem, so I thought
That's
it'd be
right.
some
Yeah.
memorable turtle.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think you're that slow. So, you know, I think this is great that they're putting together a second one of these, and it is in Nashville, which is close for a lot of our listeners. Um, but it's I think rock and roll has typically been and still is male dominated art form.
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly, yeah, that's certainly true. There's been a lot of great female singers, though, or, musicians and singers and songwriters, and, this rock camp certainly celebrates them.
Yes, and it also gives the people that are going to sign up to be a part of this, it gives those women a chance to um get come together and experience what it is like to be part of a female rock band.
Yeah,
And
I also wanted to mention that Britt, our guest, is actually the guitarist for the band Vixen.
yes, she is. So really, she's going to be so interesting because one, she's associated, heavily with rock camp and putting these musical acts together. And then she is a female musician, guitarist, who's also an active part of a band that's touring.
Yeah.
So that's fascinating just to have those. Those are both dream jobs.
Yeah, she certainly, I'm sure there's a lot of people who would really enjoy doing that sort of thing.
And I think the first female rock camp that they had was Melissa Etheridge and Ann Wilson, maybe was it?
I think it was, yeah, that sounds about right.
So that also what a great way to start out female rock camp.
Yeah, now they have Wynona and Lzzy Hale and,
Vicki
right,
Peterson.
Vicki Peterson and Britt.
And of course, our guest, Brit Lightning.
That's right. Should be a good time for the campers for sure.
I mean, so I know Lzzy Hale is a favorite, definitely for you.
Oh, yeah.
Um, do you like women rockers? Do you like their music
Yeah,
more?
of course. I mean, like, I grew up listening to like Pat Benatar and Hart, and Ann and Nancy Wilson are both amazing, and
Joan Jett
Joan Jett, yeah.
and the Blackhearts,
Yeah.
but still, she was, I mean, I feel like she was a very big influence on women rockers.
Oh yeah, for sure, definitely. I'm trying to
So
think of who else I listened to.
the
Uh,
Bangles,
huh?
the Bangles.
I mean, I knew some of their music. I wasn't, a huge fan, but I mean, they put out some good music for sure.
Yes, Jeff Griffith, if you're listening, he was a fan of Susanna Hoff, I believe. So
Ah,
yeah.
yeah. So I'm trying to think of who else. I know there were others, and I'm just drawing a blank at this point. But like Blondie, and
Chrissy Hynde.
yep, Chrissy Hynde from the Pretenders, definitely. She,
Hmm. Yeah, and even if you go back to like Janis Joplin, and so women they've had an impact definitely on music, and um, but it seems like breaking into the rock genre has been more difficult for women because it tends to be mostly male rock groups. But then you've got those, pathfinders, I guess, path pavers.
yes, Trailblazers.
Yeah. So, I'm just so happy to see Rock Camp doing this, and I'm so glad that we have, our guest today to tell us all about it, and so we can also celebrate her and her talents and contributions.
All right, that sounds good. We will get to the interview and find out all about what she's been up to and things that she's doing, and see what happens.
All right, let's do it. Brit Lightning, I want to welcome you to Backstory Sessions. I'm so excited to have you as our guest today.
Hello, thank you for having me. Happy to be here.
Well, so Matt and I have had this little contest about your name, and so we're going to start with that. Although I will have to say, I feel like he's going to be right. But before, we discussed it, like in my mind, one thing came to my mind when I hear Brit Lightning. So where does your name come from? And we'll see who ended up being correct.
Okay, well, I had my own band when I was in high school and college, and I just wanted it to be, each member being more like a superhero kind of. And I liked Motley Crue. I liked that Nikki Sixx's name wasn't really his name, and I just thought it was cool to have this alter ego. And then I wanted to name everybody in the band after weather elements. And I thought that, lightning is fast and electric and flashy and bright and exciting, and so I just I thought that was a good a good one to go with.
Oh my goodness, Matt! Neither one of us actually got it exactly right. You were closer than me, but,
Right.
And I did get struck by lightning sort of through a TV once, and I was jittery for days. So yeah, so that there's that too.
Oh my gosh! Wow. Well, what a name and what a backstory for it. Well, I thought maybe from Grease Lightning, and Matt thought because
All
he
right.
plays the guitar fast, so he's actually closer, I guess. But
all good though. I do love Grease, and I do have people that every time I see them do the "Go Brit Lightning" and Go Brit Lightning.
Well, it's amazing backstory, anyways, and the weather elements. That is very cool. I did not expect that. But okay, so you grew up. Let's get some of your backstory. You grew up around Boston area.
That's right.
Did you have a musical family, or?
Not at all. Not at all. Very non-musical. But I just love music, and then I got my sister into it, and so her and I started playing in a band together. I picked up the guitar and she picked up drums. But I think it all started, when you're in elementary school and you get to pick an instrument. Like I liked when we played the recorder and stuff in school, and then I moved to the flute and really enjoyed that. And then when we moved for high school, and my high school didn't have any band, so I couldn't continue to play the flute. And then I just kind of got into rock and roll and found the guitar. And I heard Eddie Van Halen. That was a big one. And I was like, well, I don't want to do this on the flute. I want to do this on the guitar. The Eruption's going to sound way cooler when I learn it on guitar than it will on the flute. Although I did try it on the flute. So that was interesting.
I don't know. Ian Anderson from Jethro Tull, he did pretty well with the flute and a rock band.
That's true. It's very true.
So no band at your high school when you moved?
I went to a Catholic private high school, and there was no like arts or music at the time. Now they really upped it, but it was kind of old school back then.
Yeah. So do you sing and write songs as well?
I do. I don't think that I'm a great singer, but I like to do it anyways. And I love writing.
Do you still play the flute?
I do it all. You know what? When I go home to visit my parents, I'll take it out of the basement and mess around.
So, besides Eddie Van Halen, you mentioned, who were some of your other musical influences growing up?
I always loved Ozzy, all of Ozzy's guitar players. So, Zach was playing for him when I was, picking up the guitar, and I loved Randy Rhoads, Jakey Lee, all that. And then definitely was really heavily into Metallica. So I loved James' rhythm style, but also Kirk's leads. The Dimebag was a big influence. David Gilmour, Jimi Hendrix, Stevie Ray Vaughan, Marty Friedman. I really liked a lot of the shred stuff when I first started playing.
So not a lot of female influences, because there weren't a lot, I guess, for guitar.
It's true. And then, I kind of grew up more in the 90s, and so grunge was happening, and grunge didn't really inspire me to play guitar. That's not why I picked up guitar. Like I said, it was when I heard Van Halen. So then from there, Van Halen was the gateway drug to listen to all the other 80s bands. And but I was influenced by Vixen once I got into like all the hair bands and stuff, because that was the fun stuff to play. They had the fun guitar solos, the fun riffs, more so than like playing along to Nirvana and stuff. So I got really into that. And then I did discover Vixen and Lita Ford and the Runaways and stuff. But other than that, I mean, those were really the only women that I knew about in rock and roll for a while.
And they had big hair.
Yeah, I love the hair.
So when did you know that music was going to be your career path?
I just, in high school, I was just like, once I started playing guitar, I really dove into reading all these like rock autobiographies and stuff like that. And I just thought that it just fascinated me, just the whole lifestyle of having a band and being on the road, and the energy of just live performances all the time. I just wanted that. I wanted that lifestyle. So I from early on in high school, I was just like, that's what I want to do. That's all I could think about doing. So nothing else really occurred to me at the time.
You're in Catholic school, is that a popular career path?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. However, there was a little guitar club after school that some of the boys like formed, for like an hour. One of the teachers would leave his room open, and some kids would play guitar. So that ended up being like my hang once I learned to play. And so for an hour, once a week after school, we'd kind of get together, and then that led to jam sessions and making bands. And my parents were always very cool and supportive, and jam sessions would be in our living room. We had a drum kit in the living room and a half stack in the living room, so they were very cool and supportive. I think they were just happy I wasn't doing drugs.
Yeah. It's so from your Catholic school days then, and you're playing, with these different like little jam sessions and things. What is your plan? Like, or do you have one of, how am I going to get from here to making this really happen?
Well, yeah. Did I have a plan? Early on, I didn't really have a plan. It was just kind of like jamming. We started doing like little coffee houses in our school cafeteria once a month and just doing cover songs. And then I was actually at a music store testing out amps and got a gig from that. And the store manager was like, I think I was just playing Metallica through this amp, and he was like, "Oh, I have a band and we sound like Metallica and we're going on tour next week. And we just lost our guitar player. Do you want to be our guitar player?" And I was like, "Yep." So I went home and I told my mom that I was going on tour for 2 weeks, in the middle of school and everything. And she was like, "I'm sorry, what?" And I think it was a senior at that point in high school. And of course, with all guys older than me and stuff. And so, anyways, they had us sit down with all the guys in the band. I interviewed them all, and I ended up doing this little run, this little tour. I was so lucky she let me go, and my mom let me go, and it was a blast. And that was the first time that I played like real bars and clubs and stuff like that in front of people that weren't my friends. And so I got good feedback, and I was like, your mom and your friends will tell you you're good, but you don't really know if you're good until you play in front of strangers and they tell you you're good. So I was like, maybe I can do this. So then after that, I started my own band and started booking. I was like, I can book us. I'll do this. So I started booking us a few nights a week in Boston, and I had that band for a while, and we did some recordings, and it was great. And I just thought I was going to try to make my own original band work at the time. And then it was a lot of work, especially when you're not making a lot of money. And so then a friend of mine said, "You know what, you should just look into being a gun for hire. And then all you have to do is show up and play guitar. And you don't have to worry about booking the band and writing the songs and blah, blah, blah." And I didn't even know that was an option. I just thought, like, I was all into like the band mentality thing. I thought it was just so cool to be in a band that's like a family, and one for all and all for one, and that kind of vibe. But I was like, oh, maybe I will try this. So then I went to an audition. I auditioned for Lady Gaga. That was the first audition. Well, it was like one of the only auditions I really did, and that was interesting. I didn't get the gig, but I rehearsed with them I got all the callbacks. I rehearsed with them for about almost a week, and at the end of the day, I didn't get it, but I got all my other gigs really from that one audition. So even though one thing doesn't work out, you can't lose hope, because things happen for a reason. And the gig I ended up with, I think probably suited me better anyways than Lady Gaga would have. So then, then that kind of started me on my path of doing it for like a real career.
Was
but
Lady?
All through. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Was Lady Gaga? I mean, was she like really popular then, or was she just starting out, or?
She had just released the Paparazzi song and stuff. She was replacing her whole band for that upcoming tour that she had. That was a really big tour.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So did you get to meet her? And you said you were there like a week. So did you rehearse actually with her, or?
Yes, I did. Yeah. Yep. She was interesting. Yeah, she's cool though. Well, a lot of respect for her.
Well, so there's a female artist, and it's, that would seem like a good match for you. But then that one doesn't work out. And how do you pick yourself up and go on to the next audition, or thing that the universe has for you? Like, what's advice that you have? Because inevitably this is going to happen, I'm sure, to everyone, that you're going to want a job or think that you're going to get a job and it doesn't work out. So, what is it that makes you move on?
Well, I like I said, that was my first audition, and so right off the bat, since I didn't get it, I was like, oh, okay, well, maybe I'm not supposed to do music like I really thought I was supposed to. But initially, I guess I was wrong. Maybe I'm just not good enough to do this. And so then my parents had really wanted me to get into business. So then I kind of committed to doing business and committed to working a regular job. And I really hated it, but I was like, okay, I'm just gonna, I tried. That was my, I put the effort in. I gave it a whirl for a few years, and now looks like I got to make money. And so as soon as it took months, and I finally wrapped my head around it and got in a good place mentally where I was like, just created a way to be happy in it. At that moment, I got a call for this Latin artist named Alejandro Sanz from somebody that had seen me at the Lady Gaga audition and offered me an audition for this gig. And that audition I did get, and it was for like a 3-year world tour, and that was like my dream. Playing stadiums. We played sold out stadiums like all over the world, and so that was really, all I had ever dreamed about since I was like a kid. So that was just totally phenomenal, and so it just made me realize, whatever's meant to be, I think is gonna happen no matter what. And it's just not always a straight path. Sometimes you take the scenic route and it takes longer than you expected, and it's not exactly what you expected, but in the end, once it's all over and you look back, you just see that it all makes sense. Like so that's how I always feel. Like I just kind of trust that things are the way they're supposed to be for some weird reason that will be revealed later. and yeah, that's kind of how my life's always been.
So do you like the stadium tours? Did you fall in love with those more so than when you were performing at clubs or smaller venues?
Oh yeah, I mean, that was just amazing. The energy when you see a sea of people out there, and just in the production, that you get when you're on those big stages, the lights, the curtains, everything. So yeah, that was amazing. But you look back and like some of my most favorite moments ever are just playing those crappy little dive bars, and
Right.
because it is about the journey and what you learn and that kind of stuff. So that part's super important. I wouldn't have traded, that either, but being able to get to the next level after that was, very rewarding.
And so traveling around the world as well. Had you traveled a lot before that?
I had gone to Europe with my band, but I hadn't been to South America. Hadn't spent nearly the amount of time that I spent overseas before. And so, yeah, went to a lot more countries. Learned to speak Spanish, tried a bunch of different foods, just learned so much more about different cultures. So I loved to travel. So that was, that's a big part of touring. You have to love that, because there's a very small amount of time that you're on stage versus just traveling. Because that's what musicians do. We get paid to travel, and then we get to play music for a little bit, but it's really traveling, buses, planes, whatever, that's the majority of where your time is spent getting somewhere.
And had you ever thought about that aspect of it before, like when you just were like, in high school and thinking, oh, this is a dream, I want to play music? Had you thought about like how much time you would be just traveling?
No, definitely never expected that I would spend so many hours of my life in an airport. Or you never think when you're young and, excited about, playing in France or something, that you're only going to see the airport, the inside of the venue, your hotel for 2 hours, and then you're back and you've left the country. It's like nobody, you don't think it's that fast. And sometimes people be like, oh, you were in Germany, did you go see this and this and that? And I was like, no, I was there for like 4 hours, and I was at the hotel in the venue. So you do, that is the only downside. That, but that is why I really make an effort to always get up early, and before sound check, run around the town as much as possible. Hit a museum or hit some kind of landmark, and just you got to squeeze it all in. sleep when you're dead, because you never know when you're going to be back somewhere.
That's true.
Right. Well, so after this 3-year world tour, then what happens?
Then there were some, I was supposed to go on the next tour. So a bunch of us were, but then, some differences happened with labels and changing management and stuff like that. And so anyways, it ended up not working out, and I was home in Boston. And it was a snowstorm, and I was stuck in my condo and snowed in for 5 days. And I was like, why the heck do I live here? I just spent so much time in South America and great beaches. I was like, I got to get out of this place. I got to go to LA. So I packed up my stuff on right when I was about to leave for LA. I ended up getting a kind of a pop gig, which had me back and forth between New York and LA all the time. So I kind of was able to get my feet wet more in LA right before I moved there and meet some people and see some different areas. And so then I actually felt even more ready to move to LA. So then I headed out there and, I played with some Top 40 Act and some other bands. And then, started hitting the jams around town. We didn't have jams in Boston like that. Not that I knew of. But like jam nights, in LA, you can go out any night of the week and hit a jam and just get up and play with other musicians, and it's great for networking. So I started doing that and met a bunch of people, and and then joined an all-female tribute band out here just to play like the fun LA clubs I always wanted to play, like the Whiskey and Viper Room and stuff like that. So that was great. And then from there I got the Vixen gig from being out doing that, which is where I am now.
Yes. So, tell us about that, because, you're coming into an established band with Vixen, right? So,
yes.
Did you grow up before you got to be a part of them, were you a fan already?
Well, I was, because, when I was learning guitar, like I said, I went to all those 80s hair bands and stuff like that. And I just knew of them. And I just remembered, I was into the cartoon Gem at the time. Remember that cartoon? I don't know, the cartoons with like the girl rock band. And then when I discovered Vixen and I was in high school, I was like, oh my God, it's like they're like real life Gem. That's so cool. Like they're like real life cartoon rock star superheroes. This is so cool. So I did know about Vixen, and so it was amazing, because in college and stuff I had an all-female band. I love playing with women. That's my favorite thing. I just thought it was so cool to have kind of a girl gang, because you always see like the guy gangs and bands, the cool band guys, but I'm like, girls are cooler. And then if we play instruments and rock out, there's nothing cooler than that. So joining Vixen was this total honor, and I love it. And it does feel like that. I do feel like I'm in a girl gang. I love everybody in the band. We get along. We have so much fun. And it's always like a big rock and roll slumber party when we get together.
So you guys are
surreal in a way, people that you thought of as hero cartoon character kind of performers, and now you're a part of that.
Wait, I'm sorry, what was the first part of the question?
Does it feel surreal at first?
Oh, it does. And then, I was big into Skid Row and, Poison and all those, and then we play with them. So that's even more surreal too. It's like, oh my gosh, all these people that I had their posters on my wall and everything. I have them in my phone now. They're their friends. It's so cool that I can, I can call these people friends, and this is my life right now. It's very cool. It is surreal. I'm very grateful, and I try to never take it for granted. Never, feel like, when you're down and tired and you've never slept and you're on the road and, it's like maybe you're not in the best hotel or something and you can get all grouchy, but it's like, no, I would take this over an office job any day, any minute.
How often do you guys play out?
When it's busy season, we usually are out every weekend. We do a lot, mostly fly dates right now. So we fly out maybe on a Thursday, come back on a Sunday, things like that. That's kind of like a typical thing. Or we'll be out for like a rock cruise, or we'll go overseas for a couple weeks,
Right.
Or do some festivals, things like that. But we don't really do the tour bus thing with this band. So we do just a lot of like in and out fly dates. So it's not like we'll be stuck together for 8 months on the road, so it's which is nice, because it's a good balance to come home and feel like you have a home also.
Yeah, I was going to ask you if you preferred that over touring incessantly.
I do. Because when I can have friends and feel like I'm connected to people, instead of like, you disappear for a year and then you come back and people are like, oh yeah, I remember you. What happened to you? Yeah.
Brit, right?
Yeah, right, exactly.
Well, you went on now. Another cool job that you have is with Rock Camp. So tell us, how did you meet or become associated with Rock Camp and David Fishof?
Yes, well, I had a lot of friends that I would just see on Facebook and stuff posting like they did this Rock Camp thing, and I kept seeing it, and finally I was like, what is this? So I just did a bunch of research one night and read all about David and about the camp, and I just thought it was so cool and so different, and I really just like the message, and just like the goal of making people's dreams and fantasies come true mixed with music. And I was like, well, that's like the best thing ever. How do I get involved in this? And so I became a counselor at the first camp that I attended in 2019. It was a Beatles themed camp with Cheap Trick as the guest, and I just had such a great time doing it. It was even better than I could have expected. It is life-changing for everybody involved, not just the campers, but for the counselors and the special guest artists and everything like that. And so, I was talking to some people there and to David, and I have a degree in music business because my parents actually really didn't, even though they were supportive, back in the day, but they really did not want me to be a musician. They thought that sounded like a very unstable lifestyle, and they were business people, so they were like, my dad was like, you're not going to Berkeley, like, no way. So he was like, if you want to be a rock star, you'll figure that out on your own, but if you're going to go to school, you should go for a backup plan. So anyways, David liked the fact that I had a background, in business in addition to understanding music and being a musician. And so we just started talking and working together and planning camps, and we really get along great. And I think he's amazing, and he is just always enthusiastic and inspiring, and he's coming up with new ideas every single day. He never stops. He's always like just keeps climbing. It's very cool. And he's just so passionate about what he does. That's infectious. And so, as far as a day job, I guess I couldn't ever dream of anything better. I love working on a rock camp. It doesn't even feel like work. And we've got so many great camps coming up, and we just completed a bunch. So during COVID, it was like we just started to get together to work on stuff, and then COVID hit. And so then we were like, now what? And so we ended up doing these master classes online, and I hosted over 160 of these classes over Zoom starting in 2020, and interviewing people like Roger Daltrey and Alice Cooper, and then managers like Shep Gordon and like Jason Swan from Lava Records. And it was just really, really cool, and it brought people together during that time and kind of kept things going. And then when the world kind of got back in shape earlier this year, we put on 6 camps between January and May.
Wow.
And they were amazing, and it was just so refreshing to get everybody back together and be amongst people again and make music together. So they were really special. And now we've got a couple camps coming up. We've got we just had one in New York City, a jam band camp, the first time ever, with Phil Lesh of the Grateful Dead as the big star, and it was just so, that was really different and very cool. And then we've got one coming up with Nels Cline of Wilco, Ace Frehley from Kiss, and Chuck Leavell of the Stones in November. And then we've got our women-only rock camp coming up in Nashville, and it's a volume 2. In May, we did our first ever women-only rock camp, and I had just said to David, we don't have that many women that come, and I think just because, it's intimidating, and I've just seen like clinics and stuff like that, and there's just not that many women that come to those things, and I think it's just because I don't know. It's still like rock and roll is still male dominated. I feel, and I don't know. It seems like can seem like a macho kind of thing, and there's a lot of ego involved. And so we tried this women only thing. I was like, I think it'd be cool. I think it'd be really like a supportive environment and like just inspiring. And if we get a bunch of strong women, so we got Nancy Wilson from Heart, we got Melissa Etheridge, Kathy Valentine from the Go-Go's, and Oriente, and they loved the idea about it being just for women. And it was, I think, the best camp that we had. It was so cool, so empowering. And so we're doing a round 2 of that in Nashville in January. And for this time, we wanted to bring in some country elements because it's in Nashville. So we got Wynona Judd, who is totally amazing, legend. And then we brought the rock and roll. We got Lzzy Hale from Halestorm. And we got Vicki Peterson from the Bangles. And there's going to be a few more. And so really excited about that one. And then we announced a Led Zeppelin themed camp with Kim Thile of Soundgarden, and the DeLeo brothers from Stone Temple Pilots, and Carmine Appice from Vanilla Fudge, who was John Bonham's a big influence of John Bonham. So that camp is going to be very cool, and then we're working on even more because David's nonstop and it's awesome.
Yeah, he was quite an interesting character for sure. Were you involved in the Rock Camp movie at all?
That was really before I started.
Oh, okay.
Working with Rock Camp. So unfortunately, no. But it's great, and it's on Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
And iTunes, and I think it does capture the magic of what Rock Camp is.
Yeah, we did get to watch it, and it was pretty interesting for sure. I think everybody should take a peek at it.
Yes, definitely.
So I want to focus a little bit about the Nashville, the second of the women's only rock camp. So where will that final performance, where will they be performing on the last day?
The final performance will be at the Hutton Hotel, the Analog Room in the Hutton Hotel. And we did a songwriting camp there earlier this year, and it was just awesome. And it's a beautiful room in there. It sounds great. So we love that venue.
And so for the listeners, the performers will be women, but the audience can be male as well, right?
Absolutely, yes, for sure.
So do the songs get sent out to them, or is that all developed in those 4 days?
Yeah, so I have a suggested list of songs that I send out everybody before camp, and then everybody gets to jam a song with one of the headliners. So you'll jam a Wynona song or a top country hit, with Wynona, a Halestorm, or an awesome rock song with Lzzy, and so the counselors, each counselor mentors a band. So, and counselors are working musicians, like myself, or, who else we have coming up? Joel Hoekstra is one of our counselors, Gary Hoey, Tony Franklin, people like that. And they really help coach these bands and get them in shape and prepare them to play with their idols. So, over the course of the 4 days of camp, there's rehearsals, there's master classes, there's jam rooms, Q&As with artists, and then you jam with the headliners, and then you have your final performance. So there's a lot crammed into the 4 days, but we really make sure that you're ready to go. So there's a lot of apprehension before camp, especially for new campers. How am I going to ever be able to do this in 4 days? But it somehow all comes together. It's amazing how it does every single time.
I'm curious how you go about setting these up. I mean, do you just call up Roger Daltrey and say, "Hey, I got this thing going on. You interested?" I mean,
yeah, pretty much.
This sounds a little intimidating at some,
Yeah, well, yeah, they can be, but you know what? They love it, and that's why Roger's done it so many times. Nancy Wilson's come back a bunch. Jerry Cantrell's come back a bunch. They enjoy it because it is rewarding. You know, it kind of like reminds you, and then to see like how passionate people are. I mean, when you do it every day, you know, some of the initial excitement wears off, but then you see these campers come in and they're just like so enthused and their mind is being blown from just being on stage at the whiskey. And then it's just like, it's a good reality check for
Yeah.
people that do it professionally too. So it's like, oh yeah, right, I remember that feeling. Yeah, I gotta remember that. That's why I'm doing this. You know, it's easy to get caught up in things and forget.
Is there anybody that you'd really love to get to come to one of those, but you just haven't been able to do it?
Oh man, yeah. I would love to see Joe Walsh do it.
Oh, yeah.
I'm a big Eagles fan. I
Yeah.
would love to see David Gilmour do it.
Oh, my God. That'd be
Slash
awesome.
has done it before, but not when I was there. So I'd like to do a redo with Slash. Um, Gosh, I mean, the Stones would be great. Keith
Mhm.
Richards would be awesome. Um, yeah, yeah, I got a good list.
Yeah.
Well, it seems like your early background was like kind of all leading you to this as well. Like, you know, when you were booking your own band and doing all of that, and then you got your business degree, and you know, so all of these planning. It sounds like that you're a planner as well. Um, so your life's just kind of all fallen into place, and music and planning.
Yeah, you know, I guess I think, you know, my parents are just always like, you know, people that are like, got to be prepared for anything and learn how to do everything just in case. And, you know, they're right, because then, you know, COVID hits and so many musicians are out of jobs. And I really could do anything, I feel like, that I wanted to for a job. If I couldn't do music, you know, I feel capable of, you know, tackling any kind of profession. And it's funny because when I did those master classes and I interviewed all these artists and famous people, a lot of people said, I never had a backup plan, and don't have a backup plan because then you'll use the backup plan. And I get that, but I do strongly feel like a backup plan is a great idea. I don't think there's ever anything wrong with a backup plan, because life is crazy. This planet is crazy, and you never know. So why rely on one thing when you can have options? So that is my advice to everybody. I do think it's great to have multiple skills and also multiple sources of income. I think the more you know, the better. So yeah.
So
What?
you mentioned the songwriters. Is that part of, like, is that a separate kind of camp, or how does that fit in?
That was a separate camp. We had never done that before. We did a songwriting camp where we had like Emmylou Harris come in, and we had uh oh boy, Marty Fredrickson, who's a great songwriter. David Johnson came in because we got a bunch of great Nashville people. Chaz, trying to blank on his last name, but he wrote the hit for John Waite, "Missing You," and just a bunch of great songwriters coming in, and just giving their, you know, inputs on everything and how they construct songs. And and of course, Desmond Child hosted the whole thing.
Wow.
Like the master songwriter, Desmond. So and he critiqued people's songs. You would bring in a song and he gave you like live feedback on your song and helped you with it. It was amazing. So we will definitely do another songwriting camp. That the information there was pretty invaluable.
So do the songs get recorded at the end of the camp, or?
Yes, yes, we had a great studio in Nashville, and then you know, once you went through the tweaks with Desmond, you got to record it with the top studio musicians in Nashville, like the cats that are on every big country record right now. So that the album came out amazing. Actually, we talked about releasing it or doing something with it, a compilation album, because it was so good.
Wow.
Wow, that's very interesting. I don't think that we spoke with David about that part of it, so it's good for the listeners to know that if they're interested in songwriting, then there's a camp for them as well.
Yeah, and you can work on that at this women's camp in Nashville too. We are going to have a songwriting sector of it as well, since we are in Nashville and such a big songwriting town.
So is it too late for people that are interested in the Nashville one? Is it too late to be a camper?
No, definitely not. No, we still have spots available for all instruments, vocalists, bass players, guitar players, drummers, keyboardists, um, and it's amazing. And you don't have to be the biggest, you don't have to know all of Wynona's stuff to join this camp, for example. I mean, what we're doing is you're jamming the hits of the top like female artists, So you can play "I Love Rock and Roll" with Lzzy Hale. It doesn't have to be. You don't have to be an expert in Halestorm songs or Wynona songs. They're all country songs. So it's not like that. It's what it is just you're getting together and you're learning from these successful, amazing people who have really made it in such a hard industry. So I mean, they just have so much knowledge to share and just their energy and just being able to jam with them. It's really invaluable.
So what's next for you? I mean, I know you're doing the camp and you're touring with Vixen, and any future plans that you have that you want to share?
Yeah, you never know what's next, really. But I love doing the camps. We got a lot coming up with that, and a big busy year in 2023 for Vixen, going over to Australia and Japan and some cruises and stuff like that. We just got off the Kiss cruise 2 days ago, so that was a blast.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So if I have a little cough, that's probably why. Those cruises are crazy. They're so exhausting, but they're so much fun. But yeah, you never know. I mean, I will be playing music. I'd like to record a solo album eventually here. I thought I was going to do that during COVID, and then COVID ended up being a busy time. So, as soon as I have time, I will be working on some new projects for sure. But all this stuff is keeping me pretty busy right now. So
yeah, I can imagine. Sounds like it. All right, Kat, one more question.
So we normally, I had one last question, and then we normally end with a choice question of a Matt question or a Cat question. But favorite guitar, do you have a favorite one?
I do have a favorite one. It is my custom cracked mirror Randy Rhoads model Jackson Flying V, and it was custom made for me. It was one of the last ones that Grover Jackson worked on, and it's got these cool inlays that I designed with lightning bolts and stars in them, and it says my name on it. And I just got it outfitted with brand new awesome Steve Vai DiMarzio pickups, and so now it just sounds so good and looks so good. And that is definitely my baby, my number one guitar. But I also love Les Pauls, and I've got a cool Les Paul with a Floyd Rose on it, which is nice because for Vixen, it's I like to have the floating bridge to do and dive bombs and stuff like that. So, I love all guitars. It's tough. I have an old Fender 66 Strat that is just incredible. I love SGs.
Wow.
You can't have enough.
Do you know how many? Do you know how many you have?
I probably have about 30 right now.
Wow. Is it
But
more?
a lot of them I don't play. It's funny. I play like the same 3.
Yeah.
But on the road, I guess. But then when I'm at home, I pick them all up, I guess. But
okay, so
some of them are still stuck in my parents' basement, and they're like, "Why do we have these? Get rid of these. What are you doing with these?"
We're having a yard sale.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Do they have names?
You know what? I never named my guitars. No,
Okay.
they don't. I don't know why. It just never came naturally, so I just didn't. Yeah, I never named them. I know. It's kind of sad.
Do you have your first one?
Do I what?
Do you have your first guitar? Did you keep it?
I sure do. It's my purple sparkly Ibanez that I got signed by Satriani and Vi and Zach Wilde when I was like young, and would go to those guitar clinics, and I'd be that silly little girl with the guitar and ask them to sign it. Yep, I still have it.
So we end our podcast with your choice of a question from Matt or a question from Kat. It may be related to music or something we've discussed, or it may be totally unrelated. So whose question would you like to end with?
Let's go with you, Kat.
All right. Okay. What is one thing that you think you're probably better at than you actually are?
That's a good one.
Mine would have been much easier.
I might go with Spanish. A lot of times I think I still remember Spanish, even though like I was really using it 5 years ago, and now I don't use it that much. And I just think everybody knows what I'm saying, and I go on, and people look at me like, we have no idea what you just said. That's not even Spanish. We don't know what that is.
That's a good answer. Well, it's been so fun having you as a guest and learning all of this, your backstory, and all about rock camp. And we definitely plan to be at the Nashville one, and we're looking forward to it.
Okay, well, I look forward to meeting you there. It's going to be a blast, and thank you for having me. It's great talking to you guys.
All right, thank you so much, Brit. We hope to talk to you again soon, and we'll definitely see you in Nashville. And when you record that solo album, you can come back and talk to us about it.
Okay, I love it. Will do.
Thank you.
All right, take care.
Thank you so much, guys. Take care.
You too.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. As always, if you have any questions, concerns, or comments, you can send those to Kat at iWritePlease@outlook.com, or you can write to me at backstorysessions@gmail.com or matt@level11ventures.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care.